What if we told you this started in an alley, a mile into Chicagoland, by a man who decided to get back to the root of what mattered?
Hello everybody, I'm Joe Skibby here with Beats, Beds, and Browns. We're fortunate today to be with Paul Hletko, founder of Few Spirits in Evanston, Illinois. We're going to do a little deep dive into Paul's history, talk about starting the brewery, the industry, some advocacy efforts, as well as what's coming up next for the distillery. So Paul, thank you for joining us.
Great to be here, Joe. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, I really appreciate your time today. Why don't you start by telling me a little bit about your roots and where you're from?
I'm a Midwestern kid. I was born here in the Chicagoland area. I was actually born kind of a little bit west in Oak Park.
Okay.
But grew up in Michigan. I went to college in Michigan. Moved back here in I moved here in 93, and I've been here for 28 years, I guess now. Lived in the city until I had 3 kids. It's time to get out of Dodge, and moved up here into Evanston and been living a good life ever since.
Fair enough, yeah. And a former attorney, from what I understand?
Yeah, I'm feeling much better now, but yeah.
Very nice.
You probably figured that out after you pieced up your contract.
Oh, yeah, hey, it's all part of it, right? It's professional experience, so.
It is what it is.
Talk to me a little bit about the history of Few Spirits and how you got into the distillery.
So Few's been around now we're coming up on our 10th birthday. We're 9 years and 9 months or so.
Okay.
I don't know what today is because I was tracking. It's really still March of 2020 as far as I can tell.
Sure,
but,
fair enough.
We're coming up on our 10th birthday, and it's been really exciting. We're a small little grain to glass distillery sitting right here in Evanston. And we've been able to grow. Over the last 10 years, we've grown from distributing just here in Chicagoland to the point where we're now distributed in 50 states. We're in 36 countries on 5 continents.
Wow.
And just really continuing to grow. And it's been really exciting having people around the world really react to what we do and react in a really positive way. People like the whiskey we make, and it's something we're really excited because we get to come to work every day and make liquid art and put it in a bottle.
Talk to me about the grain to glass movement. I'm sure we're all familiar with farm to table, farm to fork, and grain to glass, I assume, is similar?
Yeah, grain to glass just kind of means that we actually bring grain into the distillery and make it. In the world of whiskey, very few distilleries actually distill anything. And so we're really proud of the fact that we actually make our own whiskey. I always tell people I got into this business to make whiskey, not to make money, and that's worked. We're really proud of the fact we make our own whiskey. We bring in local Midwestern grains from as close to home as we can find it. We mash it, we ferment it, we distill it, we barrel it, we age it, we harvest it, we bottle it all by ourselves in our facilities and our equipment. And that's what I think people think of when they think of small batch or craft whiskey. They think that people are doing all that, when in reality most of the time people are not. So it's really something we're really proud of, that we have the integrity to do what we say we do.
You mentioned craft distillery. I know in craft brewing, there's an actual definition of distribution totals. Is there a similar term that qualifies you as craft, or is it more perception or more reality based?
The word craft has really lost all of its definition over a long time, based on being co-opted.
Sure.
So, as one of the guys that founded the trade association, the American Craft Spirits Association, that was one of the first things we did is try to really figure out who's going to qualify as craft, who's going to be a member, and how do you define all this? So definitely a challenging spot. And so there is a production element to it, or volume of production element to it. But I tend to try to think of what craft really is it's in the eye of the beholder. The customer always decides what's craft to them. But to me, the word craft really goes into the intentionality of what you're doing. Are you doing it to make money, or are you doing it to make whiskey? Are you doing it for the marketing, or are you doing it for the passion? And so I think these are all things that matter, and I think it does show up in the glass, or at least in the presentations of the world, because that's what we think is important. We really put our whiskey where our mouth is.
You talk craft, pride, local. I'm sure you're involved in the community around Evanston. I definitely want to touch on that. How do you get to 36 countries?
one day at a time. Growth has just been really wild. When I started, there was maybe 25, 30 people in the country making whiskey from scratch. So there really was nobody out there doing what we do, and so it became, pretty quickly in our history, we became known as the people that were doing what people wanted. And so distributors came to us. We came early enough, there was no competition. We've all just got friends. Yeah, there are other people doing it, but I never really think of them as competitors. I really think of them as friends.
Is there any overlap? I know there's some family history tied to brewing, but being able to be involved at the advocacy level with the Craft Distillers Association and being a foundational piece of that, I imagine there's some pretty deep relationships that you've built over time.
Yeah, I'm definitely pretty good friends with an awful lot of at least the larger scale distillers across the country now. So we've all kind of come up together. 10 years ago, we were all nothing. Today, we're all just a little bit less than nothing. People kind of come in all over the world for what we do, and they engage with it. And we bring people in rather than just take a sale from somebody else. And so that's what contributes to a really healthy world of craft spirits as well as whiskey.
Yeah, definitely. And as a guy with a marketing background, I've seen the evolution of wine, and sommelier becoming a catchy term, and breweries with the cicerones really becoming. What is the tastemaker for whiskey? Does he have a title? Is there a certification? Or?
I don't know. There's certainly several certifications out there right now, and I don't know that any of them have necessarily gained mass recognition across the market. I could be wrong. I truly just don't know. And there's like Executive Bourbon Stewards and the Stave and Thief Society and a couple of other, WSET. I think there are programs out there to help people kind of really build up their spirits and bourbon knowledge. I don't know that any of them have really jumped into common acceptance.
Sure.
But I hope I'm wrong. I just don't know.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And I think it's well documented online that your grandfather was a brewer, and that played a part in you becoming a distiller. Can you talk a little bit about the family history and how the roots led you here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously family is what matters to everybody. But me personally, I've always kind of tried to be a creative person and make art. I was a pro guitar player for a while. I made beer at home for a while. But that act of creation is what gets me excited and gets me going all day. Yeah. I don't like looking at spreadsheets. I like to make stuff. And so that's kind of been a passion of mine all my life. And then several years ago, my grandfather died. And that was relevant because prior to World War II, his family had owned what's now a major brewery in the Czech Republic. 1939 happened, and the Nazis invaded. They confiscated the brewery from the family and murdered everybody in the camps, with the exception of my grandfather. And he spent the rest of his life trying to get the brewery back. And when he died, it kind of struck me that this family history and legacy is gone forever unless I do something about it. And so I was able to kind of combine this passion to create with this family drive and family history, and fuse kind of the result. I get to come in, we get to create every day. We get to make new whiskey. We get to make whiskey every day. We get to make new whiskeys. We get to experiment. We get to play around with this. I get to really feed that creative passion, and I get to tie it in with your family and the stuff that's actually really important in life. You may not get to pick your family, but it's the one you get.
Sure. In my online studies, I found there was a little stick-it to it with the name and the initials.
There's those that talk about that. The name few really just means we don't make a lot.
Okay.
It doesn't take too much. You can come home and you can tell your husband, you can tell your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend.
Only had a few.
I didn't have too much to drink, honey. I just had a. That said, obviously we are in Evanston, which is the birthplace of the entire Prohibition movement here in the U.S. And the woman that really drove that agenda forward was an Evanston resident named Frances Elizabeth Willard. So there's certainly a good number of people that notice that similarity in her initials and our name, but it is, of course, a sheer and total coincidence.
Sure, absolutely. So, not a spreadsheet guy, contracts were driving you crazy, you just decided to start a distillery. I mean, that had to be a radical shift from your typical day-to-day.
It's different, but what it really is rewarding. and you get to make something, and you get to share in people's lives, and you get to share in the important parts, right? I mean, people consume whiskey to celebrate. They consume whiskey to commiserate. Your best times with whiskey are when you're sharing it with your friends and family. And so, as a distillery, or as a distiller or distillery, however you want to look at it, we're really lucky that we get to be a part of that point of people's lives. I've talked to people that tell me how they spent a night with one of our bottles, and 9 months later they had a baby. I talked to a guy who had been separated from his father for 30 years. Had a taste of our rye whiskey, decided for whatever reason that his dad would like it. Next day called up his dad. 7 days later he saw his dad for the first time in 30 years. And now they've got a relationship. And so, yes, we make whiskey. That's what we do. But we make life better for people because we're a part of your celebrations. We're a part of your commiserations. Something, bad things happen in life. Have a drink with your friends to commiserate over it. Great things happen in life. You have a drink with your friends to celebrate it. And I think these are those moments that make life special. And we're so lucky that we get to be, even just that little tiny part of it.
Yeah.
You get, when you drink few and you're celebrating, you've chosen to celebrate something we make. And that's a hell of a responsibility, but one I'm really happy to have.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that, but that's really important. And the marketing guy in me is enjoy responsibly. Moments are few.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's really cool.
Whiskey's important. Not that, because it's that glue that binds us together in life.
And it could be the the lubrication to a really powerful conversation, or the linchpin of a celebration moment. I wasn't approaching it from that angle, so that's an interesting perspective.
But we take it pretty seriously. We're really lucky to get to make whiskey for a living and be a part of it. I used to, when I'm out selling, I used to have a line that, look man, we're selling whiskey. We're not selling caskets. This is fun.
Yeah.
That I told that line to a casket salesman. He just started laughing. He's like, yeah, you're right, but you should see our margins. I was like, that's a good point. No one's nickel and diming you when you're talking about mom.
Sure.
So, touche.
Yeah.
However, I get to sell whiskey, you don't.
Fun, yeah. And that's a budding partnership that could be exactly there, yeah. So, you, 10 years ago, you're talking to all your friends, and maybe it was 11 years ago, it may have taken you a while to put it together, but you're putting together this proposal. Are people thinking you're crazy? I mean, entrepreneurs tend to be outliers, and walking away from a successful career, trying to start a new one, rounding up funding, those are kind of outlier behaviors.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a lot of my friends are like, you're doing what? You've got 3 kids, bro. You've got a wife. You got 3 kids. And I was like, well, at the same time, the best bet you can make is a bet on yourself.
Absolutely.
And so far it's worked out. Hopefully it'll continue to work out. But at least for now, we're doing great. And at the same time, I also like to think that I'm demonstrating behavior for my kids that I want them. Chase your dreams. Everybody sits and tells you, you got to do this, you got to do that. And if you work your ass off for this or that, then you do this, and all these good things happen. And then you try to tell your kids, chase your dreams. You can be anything you want.
Right.
You can do all this stuff. And it's really hard to tell your kids that when you're punching the clock and getting angry that you're going to work and coming home angry that you just spent hours at work. It's really kind of disingenuous. And so I'm just really proud that I get to model that behavior that I want from my kids. Chase your dreams. Believe in yourself. Don't quit. If you lose, get up and do it again.
Yeah. How have you built and developed the team around you? And was it immediate? Did you have to hire on staff, or did it slowly develop over time?
Yeah, it's people always think that the Few show is the same thing as the Paul show, and it's really not. The team we have here at Few makes it all work. Everybody wants me to be the guy, and I am to some extent, just because I am the guy that started it. But Few grew to what Few is based on our team, not based on me. Sure. Yeah, we all share this we share this drive and this passion to make, and it's infectious to being a part of a team where everybody has the same goals and dreams.
Yeah. So I know you guys do whiskeys, bourbons, and gin. For our viewers, for myself, who's not deeply ingrained in the distilling process, I know whiskey's corn, rye is its own grain, but finishing grain, right? And then gin, I thought, was juniper, if I'm not correct.
We make whiskeys. It's our primary thing. Probably 90 to 95% of our sales right now are whiskey.
Okay.
Whiskey is a distilled spirit distilled from grain. Bourbon is a kind of whiskey distilled from a mash of at least 51% corn, distilled to less than 160 proof, barreled into a brand new oak barrel that has been charred at less than 125 proof, aged, and then bottled at more than 80 proof, and made in America. Rye is almost the exact same rules, except the rye must be at least 51% rye. It does not have to be made in America. But that's our kind of our core. And gin is, the way we make gin, we make it from grain as well, and then we flavor it with juniper as well as other botanicals to kind of add the flavors, the scent and the odor, as well as the taste that we're looking for.
Okay, nice. And brunch culture, cocktail culture is emerging. I assume you guys are right in the mix of that with all your products?
We do our best to be part of that cocktail culture. Certainly our products make fantastic cocktails, but we try to make sure that everything can be enjoyed neat. You can drink our stuff on the rocks, you can drink it neat, you can drink it in cocktails, you can put it in Coke. We want, however you want to drink your whiskey, we want that experience to be the best that we can make it. Even if we're agnostic in whether or not you drink it neat or in a cocktail, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's just enjoy your whiskey the way you want to enjoy it.
Tell me about some of the low points in starting a business. Some of our audience is going to be entrepreneurs. People just getting things off the ground. It's not always an uphill climb, right? I mean, there's some big flat points and some steps backwards.
Yeah, I mean, there's being an entrepreneur is solving problems, and being in business is a question of generating problems. So that's just, those things just kind of go hand in hand. And when you're starting up, there's always issues. There's really always issues. Even today, there's always issues. It's not like problems stop when you grow. Some of the problems change when you grow, but you've always got challenges and opportunities to improve. So early on, there's so many mistakes that you make, and it's just don't quit, don't give up. Ranging from discovering that the guys that plumbed the distillery plumbed it backwards. So having to replumb the distillery literally 3 times. And by the way, I'm not a plumber, but I do things weren't working right, and figured out how to fix it.
Sure. We talk with the entertainers that we interview here on Beats, Beds, and Browns about favorite venues or favorite performances or favorite crowds. I imagine you have a favorite drink that you distill, and again, not trying to influence my consumption, but out of the production materials, do you have a favorite, and do you enjoy it at home with your feet up? Do you have a favorite place that you like to stop into? What?
Yeah, I like it all. At the end of the day, if I don't like the products we make, we don't make them. So do I have a favorite one? No, I really don't. And I can tell you that bourbon is our #1 seller, and so I certainly love that. I love drinking our bourbon. It's probably the #1 thing I drink personally. Rye whiskey is our #1 hype. Really got us on the map, and one of the products that really boosted us up early and brought us to kind of the front of the pack for craft distillers.
Nice. As a guy who sees everything at its basest, steaming hot black water for coffee, for instance, right? You've had a variety of collaborations and executed your creativity in a number of ways. What are the limits when you're trying to come up with new ideas? I mean, what are the absolute no's or the restrictions in terms of creativity?
Basically, if it's legal.
Okay.
For example, there are certain plants that I am not allowed to use in making spirits that I really like to.
Sure.
Certainly many people use those plants at home in order to create whiskeys. I can't do it here.
Are you talking about marijuana infused or other? Yeah, and even with the product being legal now? I've seen infused drinks. Yeah.
We're federally regulated.
Got it.
So I'd love to be able to play with that. I can't. It's okay. But other than that, what we really try to focus on is it fun? We don't we start kind of innovating or creating, we don't want to put a business view on it. We want to put a fun view on it because we're going to be making it. If it works, we're going to be making it day in and day out. Not going to be talking about it for many, many years to come. So if I don't even have fun when we're starting to make it, it's not going to work out very well. So we try to make sure that fun is at the core of what we do.
Fair enough. Obviously involved with the American Craft Spirits Association early on. Talk to me about some of the advocacy battles that you guys were involved in and how that membership in that organization has benefited you and could potentially benefit future members.
Well, I think it really benefits the entire industry having an organization that's out there representing its interests, especially when it's actually not for profit. We're all there volunteering our time trying to make our industry better. And we talked a little bit about competition before, and I don't think other distilleries are actually my competition if they're making good stuff. It's only a problem if they're making bad stuff, because that reflects poorly on me. Or if they are not behaving themselves in an appropriate commercial fashion, or they operating an unsafe distillery. I want all of my competitors to be excelling, because A, that reflects good on me, B, it helps me out because the categories work.
Or are you still active in committee level? Or
I'm a little bit more passive now. So I started it, or was one of the founding members. I was on the board of directors. I was the president for a year. But part of the joy and benefit and cost of having a not-for-profit trade association is that it's an elected. And there should not be a king. I don't want there to be a king of craft distilling. So I served. I've done my time. And it's time for other people's voices to get heard as well.
So we talked a little bit about the local start and the expansion globally. Being here in Evanston, how do you engage in the community? And are you welcomed, being that they're the fathers of temperance? And obviously...
So starting off from day one with the city's been nothing but fantastic. The community's been great, very strong supporters. We're really lucky to be in a great community like this. Again, there's always challenges, but that's true. And yes, the WCTU still exists, and no, they don't like us. I believe we're actually the only person on the planet that's been banned from the Francis Woodhouse. Such is life, though.
Living the outlaw life.
It is a sheer coincidence of few and their initials, but even if you think it's not a coincidence, rather than a double-barreled bird, I see it as the tip of the hat. She's an amazing woman. Either born too late or born too soon, depending on your perspective. But the stuff that she accomplished was amazing. Even the way, if you're going to judge her for her outcome, you also have to be able to judge her for the world that she was living in. And put yourself in her shoes at that time. And I really don't think anybody can quibble. You can quibble with prohibitions being stupid because it doesn't work. I need to be correct. But prohibition is really what happens when people can't handle nice things. So, if you put yourself in the shoes of a woman in the 1850s, which is kind of a relevant time frame, the world looks really different than it does here in 2021. Women don't work, women aren't educated, they're barefoot, and they're baby machines.
And the suffrage movement is burgeoning at that time in parallel with temperance.
Yeah, they were able to work, they're baby making machines. I'm not saying that's true, I'm just saying this is how the world looked at it. There's no social safety.
They couldn't have secondary education. I mean, it was an awful experience.
That's actually Frances Wood was one of the women that made educating women come forward. She was the first dean of women students at Northwestern University.
Nice.
She was instrumental in leading to educating more women. But at the time, per capita alcohol consumption was over 15 gallons per person per year. And if you assume that some of the children were not drinking their fair share of the whiskey, and some of the women were not drinking their fair share of the whiskey, and some of the men were not drinking their fair share, the men that were drinking whiskey, I'm just going to focus on men here, because that's the relevant part, were drinking really way too much whiskey. I think I probably drink more than the average guy or girl in the country right now. I would struggle to think I'd drink 2 gallons of whiskey a year. Yet average was 15.
Well, it was a water safety issue at some point, wasn't it?
You can't. And again, I'm not judging anybody, but here's the situation that yes, water's more dangerous to drink than whiskey. But if you're that intoxicated in a world that has no social safety net, and where spousal physical abuse is not only legal but kind of expected, the world looks really different to you if you're a woman.
Yeah.
And so if you're Frances Willard and you're going to judge her because prohibition's stupid, yeah, you really need to judge her based on looking at the world through her eyes. And I don't have a beef with it.
Yeah.
I don't think prohibition's a great idea. I don't think prohibition works because it doesn't.
So, again, we talked about the start and how the effort originated with you and very rapidly grew a very competent team. Obviously, awards come to the team and the brand. What does it mean for you and your team when you guys receive awards, either for individual product or industry specific?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we love getting the awards. I mean, it's not what we do anything for, but it's always nice to get recognized by your peers or by the industry that you're doing cool stuff. We're here for the art, we're here for the passion, we're here to actually make whiskey. We're not here for glory.
Outside of working at the brewery, I know you're a former musician.
Mm-hmm.
What are some other hobbies that keep you interested?
I still play guitar. I'm in a dad band. We get together once a week on Wednesday, so I'm playing tonight.
Okay.
And it's just fun. You get together with some friends, you make some noise, you jump around. I have a couple of drinks. Again, it's part of those good times.
You guys garage band, punk, yeah.
Just having fun.
Cover tunes, yeah. Nice.
Play hockey to get some exercise in. Back in the 90s, I owned a record label that was focused on Chicago house.
Okay.
It's not hip hop.
Sure. Overlaps, yeah.
I would say there's overlap is a good word. I'd say there's some overlap there. Not hip hop, but there's some overlap. I love the Wu-Tang. I love De La Soul. And I'm a deadhead, so we kind of hit your side of hip hop.
Sure. Intellectual, lo-fi.
Yeah.
Nice. That brings us to the end of my questions. Paul Hletko with Few Spirits, thank you for your time, and I appreciate you sharing a little insight into you and your business. Do you have anything you'd like to share with the audience or any upcoming events you guys got going on?
Yeah, we're always working on building up. Check us out. You can find us online at all your social medias at Few Spirits. So on the Instagrams, you name it, everywhere.
Nice.
I'm personally Paul M. Hletko on Instagram, but check us out on the Instas, on the Facebooks. We're getting our own TikTok very shortly. We're very excited about TikTok.
Yeah.
So I guess that means I have to dress up in skimpy clothes and dance. But
yeah.
I know it goes beyond that now. So we're excited. Look for us, ask us by name at your local bar, local retailer, and enjoy it.
Fantastic, man. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.